What's up everyone, welcome to another video about the Timetosser. I'm Mech, and this time I'm going to talk about the functions of all the buttons and the underlying settings that they have. So first of all, we're going to repeat a little bit of the basics. The top row are our step keys, and these basically select a slice number within the buffer that's being recorded. So basically what we're doing is working backwards in time when we press any further step keys. This 0 button is our 0 point. So if we press that, we hear the live input. You can hear this, but it's really direct. It's live input. If I select another step button, we will hear a little bit of a delay before we actually hear something, because that's how this buffer thing works. But now go back to the 0 point. I hear a snare, and I can sort of have the Timetosser repeat that snare over and over again by following it through the timeline. So while we're moving to the right, we're actually moving backwards in time. And we can just restructure this whole beat live. Those are the step keys. When I press shift, I get 8 additional steps. So we got 8 steps and 16 steps this way. 0 is always our live input step. So once you're done drumming and restructuring the buffer, press the 0 key to go back to the live input. So next up is the tempo key. Currently I have a MIDI input connected, so it's synced to the Digitact at 140 BPM. When I disconnect this, it will turn orange, and it's now in beat sync mode. Basically what this does is that it waits for a signal to analyze, and it will automatically sync to it. The only thing I need to do is give it a good direction. So I will tap the tempo of this current groove, and it will then analyze that and snap to it. And then it turns green. And now it's synced. More taps means more accuracy, but it's a very accurate way of beat syncing actually. 3 taps is often enough for it to understand, okay, this is the tempo. When I play this beat and sync it again, it will turn green, sync now. If I momentarily stop this and play it again, it will still be in the same tempo, but it's now not synced anymore. Right? Same tempo, but it's not on the beat. I can simply resync it by tapping it twice. Analyze, and there you go. So all that does is sort of reset it. It will still have the same tempo, and then reset to the beat, if I do it in time. When I connect a MIDI cable or an analog clock from, let's say, a Eurorack system, it will turn blue. And it now is synced to this clock, 140 BPM. And when I play it, you can see that it resets based on the clock that's receiving. The cool thing is that we can also still tap tempo twice as fast, or half tempo for instance, and it will apply a multiplier or divide the clock's tempo. So currently it's now normal tempo. These step length buttons are a quarter note, an 8th note and a 16th note. I'm gonna press this twice as fast, turning these step keys into an 8th, 16th and 32nd note. Blinking fast. 8th note, 16th, 32nd. Can also do half tempo. Like so. Now this is a half note. Fourth note. And an 8th note. So to have it sync back to the normal speed, just tap the tempo. Like so. And now we're back to normal. Last but not least, we can also sync this to a DAW simply by connecting the Timetosser to your computer directly, and it will then be synced to a DAW when you're using the plugin. So then there's 3 different modes that we have, and we can change these in the clock select mode. So I press mode plus tempo, and we can select one of the step length keys. The first one is sync and quantize, meaning that the transport will reset when receiving a start message from the Digitact. When I press, you can see that the blue blinking resets at the first beat. So now it's synced. So I can actually press this whenever I want to, completely out of sync, and it will still quantize to whatever is happening. Very, very foolproof, right? So when I press mode and tempo and change the clock mode to sync and unquantized, it will still receive a start message, right? But now it's unquantized, so I need to be in time, which actually is pretty nice because it gives a little bit more freedom. And it sounds a little bit more natural sometimes. And sometimes you get these nice in-between repeats that sound pretty cool. The last is unquantized and unsynced. It will still be synced to the tempo, but it won't reset when you start and not quantize. Let's switch back to synced and quantized for now. So next up we have the step length keys. These step length keys, these 3, divide the step keys into a certain division. So quarter notes, 8th notes, and 16th notes by default. So when I set it to quarter note, we shift backwards in time by a quarter note, like this. Like so. That's the basic functionality of the step length keys. We can also hold shift and change to triplets. Quarter note, 8th and 16th note triplets. And so on. So another good thing to know is that with shift you will see that these change color as well. This gives us 8 more steps backwards in time. So first 7 steps back in time, and then another 8 steps back in time. Certainly with down-tempo music, you get a lot more mileage out of your possibilities that way. So then we have something called patterns. By holding one of the step length keys, you can actually trigger a certain pattern, a predefined pattern, which basically taps different slices within the buffer for you. Press and hold this step length key, and you can see that the Timetosser is now selecting different slices within the buffer for me. Eighth note. Also adds some reverse or tape stop on some of them. I'll explain how tape stop works a little bit later. So these are really cool. And you can also switch to triplets and you will get triplet patterns. And if I hold this, like now, I have a completely new groove. I could record this and chop it up again and make something out of that. You can also combine this, so I could hold straight pattern, tap shift to shift temporarily to the triplet pattern and back to straight. Then we have another button called reverse. Reverse simply reverses the buffer, like so, or individual slices. And also while we're drumming a new pattern. You can do some interesting stuff with that. There's another very cool hidden feature, and that is the tape stop effect. Simply by pressing Shift, you can see that the reverse button changes color, and I can tap that to initiate the tape stop effect. Let's go. So by pressing and holding one of the step keys and then Shift reverse, I can get this effect. So next up is the mute button. With mute, we simply mute the incoming signal. Like so. We can also temporarily mute a slice. Like so. We can also press and hold mute and now start playing the slices. Now, I'm currently in quantized mode, so you can see that sometimes I press and I'm just a little bit too late or too early and nothing really happens. Mute mode works really well in synced but unquantized mode. You need to be quite consistent and tap in time, of course, but it does work quite well. When we start combining these things, you can do some interesting stuff. I'm going to switch back to quantized mode though. Getting away from the aim and break a little bit. Let's play this groove just to show you what you can do with combining stuff. So let's move on to the mode button. The mode button does multiple things. We can hold the mode button and we can choose between 3 different modes that the Timetosser can operate in. The first one is the main thing, the default behavior, basically the behavior that I've been showing you so far. It's called the live input mode. Then we have looper mode and slicer mode. Each of these modes I will cover in more depth in the next video. Another cool feature of the mode button is that we can press Shift and mode, and you can see that everything goes dim. And now the Timetosser will use these step buttons to let us show the level, the incoming level. And if I turn this up too loud, it will start indicating that it's clipping. So that's a pretty important thing. Press Shift plus mode again to get out of this menu. And you can also see the mode button lighting up. And if it turns red, it means that we're clipping the input. Timetosser also comes with a VST plugin. Basically, it functions exactly the same as the standalone version, but we can now route alter.audio through it that way. So let's connect another USB cable that is connected directly to my computer or a USB hub. And basically now we can just route any audio from our DAW through the Timetosser and back. The cool thing is that you can then also add another audio track and record whatever you are playing on the Timetosser in real time into another audio track. Resample that, have that go into another Timetosser, and so on. You can have up to 8 instances of Timetossers in your DAW, which you can switch between using the mode button. In the 4th video of this series, I'm going to cover this plugin more deeply. So now that we've covered all the functions and underlying settings, let's have a little jam.